All right. Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, depending on where you're joining us from today. My name is Joe Grabowski, and I'll be your host for this event. If you are new to Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants, we are all about bringing science, exploration, adventure, and conservation live into classrooms across North America and beyond. So we've got a huge May lineup of events, including our Global Biodiversity Festival. So if you head to exploringbytheseat.com, you can find all those events and join them with your classrooms. So today is a really special event. We always love when we have an opportunity to go live into the field. And we are doing that in the Seychelles in Africa. So we are going to meet an amazing team down there at the Seychelles Island Foundation. We are visiting the Valle de Mai, which is an incredible UNESCO World Heritage Site, along with Aldabra, which is a beautiful island system there. And we are going to meet Marc Jean Baptiste, and he is going to take us on a night safari in the Valle de Mai. So the Valle de Mai is this beautiful area, beautiful palms. It's one of a kind place on the planet. And I'm just going to give you a little heads up. We did a test call the other day and it was a ton of fun. We saw some amazing night creatures in the Seychelles. And I just feel that we're going to have a good one here today. So I'm going to bring them in now. And we've got Marc here. Hey, Marc, how are you?
Hi, fine, thank you. Good evening from our side and good morning, good afternoon from your side. Fine, thank you.
All right, excellent. Well, Marc, we've got a great group of classrooms on camera. We've got more classrooms joining us on YouTube. I do want to give a shout out to the classrooms on YouTube and just remind you, say hi in the chat. Let us know where you're tuning in from, but then save the chat for questions because we want to make sure we can find all of those questions. Marc, I'm going to let you take over. We cannot wait to get out into the Valle de Mai.
All right, are you ready? So fasten your seatbelt. I will take you on this tour. So welcome to the Valle de Mai UNESCO World Heritage Site. So Valle de Mai UNESCO World Heritage Site, was inscribed in 1983. Natural site. Why inscribed? Because it is home for the famous Cocodemour, which is the biggest seeds in the plant kingdom. And also this palm forest is associated with a lot of endemic fauna and flora in this intermediate palm forest here on the island of Praslin. So the island of Praslin is situated in the inner group islands of the Seychelles archipelago, and it's the second largest island. So that's where Valle de Mai is situated. And the contribution that visitors who do come and visit here, the money that they pay goes toward conservation effort of this unique palm forest, and as well as support our sister park, which is the second UNESCO World Heritage Site in the Seychelles. And this one is, as you have rightly said, is Aldabra Atoll, which lies over 1,050 kilometers south of the exclusive economic zones of the Seychelles. So to speak, it is closer to Madagascar than to the main island, Mahé, which is in the inner group. And this Mahé is the capital island. Why do we support Aldabra? Aldabra on itself, it is so remote, as said, and they cannot generate the fund required to run all the conservation programs on the atoll. And why it has been inscribed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site? Because it is home for over 100,000 Aldabra giant land tortoise. So if you heard of the giant land tortoise from the Western Indian Ocean, they all come from the Aldabra, and they are bigger than that of the Galapagos Island. And also there is an associated rich marine ecosystem that needs to be supported on the atoll. That's why most of what is there in terms of wildlife during the night safari. So do join me and hope we will be having fun. So as we make our way to the narrow alleys, you could clearly see at the front, we are already starting to see all the palm ponds, which is welcoming us. But on my right-hand side, if we looked on the board, we could see some of the creatures of some of the wildlife that you can see inside. So the very first one will be the tree frog. So the tree frog is endemic to the Seychelles, and as you could see here on the board. Also, another fascinating wild food important role in the pollination of the famous Cocodemour, I said, which is the biggest seeds in the plant kingdom. And this one here, this one is one of the tiniest frogs in the world, and it is called the Subluxed Frogs. Interestingly, this frog was discovered in 2009. So the very first encounter of this incredible, beautiful frog here was discovered actually inside Vallée de Mai in 2009, and a lot of research is being done right now to really establish and determine the genetics of this one. If I will go back a little bit to the giant brown-eyed gecko, this one was actually named or confirmed in 2002 because there are 3 species of the giant brown-eyed gecko. Another interesting creature that we can find inside the park is the Seychelles Chameleon. And this Seychelles Chameleon, this one is very interesting because it was discovered named in 1820 by a cold, and then the specimen got mixed up when they took it to the Natural History of Museum, and then somehow the name went off the radar of everybody. And then luckily in 2009, when we were doing all this really digging deep into the Vallée de Mai forest, we have realized that the species that was back over 200 years ago discovered went lost and then reappeared to nature to and so them found in the Vallée de Mai palm forest. Okay, so we make our way inside. You could see all the palm leaves. Okay, for instance, this one is called the Latagneufeuille, and the leaves was used in the old days to thatch houses. As we walk inside, I will show you how the leaves was used in the past. Okay, this one is another species of palm. Actually, we have 6 endemic palm species here in the park, and this one is called the Millionaire salad palm tree, and this one is a juvenile one. And if we have a closer look at the trunk and the leaf stalk, you will see a lot of spikes on it, and this suggests how a plant will defend itself in the event that there will be a browsing animal that will come and predate on the plant. So just to ensure that there will be regeneration of the seedlings, so they develop this defense mechanism to prevent the plant from being eaten by other predators. Okay. So as we proceed inside, we already start to see the seedlings of our legendary palm, which is the famous Cocodemed. You could see at this size of the leaf and the leaf stalk, it's still a seedlings. Okay, so if we move this is another one. Okay, so it's pitch dark here. We could hear some of the fauna in the crown of in the canopy of the trees. Okay, and the very first one here. Let's find this side. Okay, this one is a spider. I don't know how clear it comes out from your end. This is a spider. We have actually two common species here in the park, the palm spider, and this one is tinier than the palm spider. Okay, if we move here, okay. Okay. So if we move, it's very far, but we'll try and spot one closer. We already start to see the green de gecko. They have already started to perch with the edge of the palm fronds, so giving indication that they're coming to rest and sleep away from the predator. So this one here, so this is an introduced African snail. Okay, and they are quite in abundance. They are quite comfortable here, but they have further. We could see the Cocodemour snail lying on the palm frond. So it looks like they can live in cohabitation with the palm, with the giant African snail. But yeah, this one, it has rather a round shell compared to the African one, which has sort of like a cone shell. Okay, you could see this is cone, whereas the other one is a round spiral shell. Okay. Okay. So if we look carefully here, if we look carefully here, we could see the nut. So if we look carefully here, we could see the nut. So where I'm pointing my stick here, so this is the Cocodemed nut. Basically, the nut is still feeding the seedlings, with the food store, right? Even at this size, the seedling is still attached to the nut. So this gives you an idea how long a seed can stay attached with the seedlings to continue to provide the care and the food that it requires for its development. The flower of the male saplings. So if we point the camera here, we could see the flowers. You see the yellow flowers. These are the flowers of the male Cocodemed tree, and we will try and show you the trunk of the Cocodemed tree. I would change the camera position so that we could follow the Cocodemed. Okay, so this is the trunk. We tried and follow. So for you to have an idea how tall a male Cocodemed tree can grow up to, on average it can goes up to more than 20 meters tall. and this allowed the flower to be deposited onto the female flower for pollination of the flower. So you could see up there are ferns and catkins. Okay, you could see the catkins up on the tree. The Cocodemed female flower requirements of the giant brown-eyed geckos. So they feed on the catkins. Okay, so now we will try and spot other species. Okay. So we are here at the entrance of the Vallée de Mai. Okay, basically at the entrance, you could clearly see the map that gives us an idea where to go. Basically, there is a trail network, and also at the bottom, there's do's and don'ts, what one could be able to do, and do's and don'ts. Basically, if we look at the roof, the roof is touched entirely. This is the roof. So the roof is covered with the latania leaves. So the latania, the palm trees that I showed you before. So in the old days, the leaves were cut, properly dry, and used to thatch houses. Okay, even build the side wall of houses. So these are interesting ferns that could be found inside. I'm trying to see if I can. More plants. Okay. Yeah, we try and climb Cocodemour tree. So we encounter spiders. Okay, this is a spider web. Okay, so this is a female Cocodemour tree, and I do hope that you all see the Cocodemour fruit. The Cocodemour fruits. 1, 2. Actually, there's 3 of them. And this fruit inside will be the biggest seeds in the plant kingdom. Actually, when you look at it on the tree, it is like a heart shape. But in real life, when you remove the husk onto the fruit, the shape is fascinating. Okay, it has 2 lobes. Okay, again, it's the spider. Okay. Again, when the fruit falls and the tree will germinate, this is what you will see. Basically, there's a lot of seedlings. And this is the 5 endemic palm trees. Okay, so if we try and look at the other tree, you could see loads of nuts up there. I don't know how clear this comes out, but there's a lot of nuts on it. So on average, this can weigh up to more than 20 kilos. Imagine if you have over 50 nuts on one female tree, how heavy this is for one tree. Okay. But fortunately, Mother Nature built it all well and perfect that the female tree will support all the nuts in the crown until they are ready to fall down for germination. So basically, we've seen the fruit from the tree, and this is when it has been, the husk has been removed, and basically this is what we have after peeling the fruit. When we remove the husks, and you have the one single bilobe nut with the two lobes, okay, and which resemble the resemble like the female buttocks, right? So to speak. However, we've seen the male tree on we've seen cylindrical and other yellow flowers will be found on this catkins. This one is not a good, it's a dead one actually. So that's why you don't see the yellow flower. But actually, this is how it looks, the catkins. And as I said before, all these flowers, other than pollinating the female flower, they also are the main food source for a lot of geckos found inside. So, for the palmies, so if you look at the palmies tree, this is the palmies tree. As mentioned before, the Millionaire salad palm tree. Okay, the Millionaire salad palm tree. Actually, the fluorescence is found inside the prickly pears. Then again, another mechanism to prevent the flowers from being eaten by predators. So just to ensure that the efflorescence inside, the flowers inside can develop, and the seed can eventually develop, so that after the fruit has ripe, the seed will fall on the forest floor for new plants to germinate. So that's how the palm trees develop their defense mechanism to ensure that they will continue. You could see all these palm ponds, and normally all these palm ponds, this is where most of the species will come down as the evening progress for them to perch. And the reason why they do that, it is so flexible. For instance, for the chameleon, if they feel that predators is coming over, they can easily let go their body, drop on the forest floor, and then hibernate or hide underneath the dry leaves that are found on the forest floor. So in the park, we are so lucky also not only to have the varieties of the endemic species, but also we have the luxury of enjoying the fruit trees as well, which has been introduced. And what we're seeing up there is the jackfruit. Okay. Okay. So this is another prickly pears, freshly fallen off. You could see where it has detached some of the palm inside, and again full of spikes. As the different mechanism, and when it came down, also we could see. This is to give you an example of the efflorescence. That all these are tiny seeds that are well kept and well preserved inside the prickly pears. Okay, and unfortunately, this one has detached when the prickly pears came down. Another fascinating way that the palm trees grow. Some of them, they have very spectacular spikes. So these are all the seed roots. So eventually, all the seed root anchor the soil to support the main trend. And this is another species of endemic palm trees, which is common name is latanilat. So if we look behind, you could see most of them are mature tree with all these still roots. Oh. We will try and show you the cricket. If you could bear with us a second. We try and climb the tree so that we could show you the cricket. Okay. So we carefully climb this tree. So I do hope you all see this fascinating crickets. Okay. This one is associated to the palm tree, and you could see the long tentacles. They usually use that like the cockroach, just to sense their prey and also their direction where they're moving. Right? This is endemic cricket to the park. So the night is still young, that's why we don't see them in abundance, but they will be slowly coming down to perch. Okay, we try and so if we look at this one, this is a very special species of plant, and it is called a subspecies in the park. It's not palm, but it grows a lot of steel root, and there's a lot of them. It's quite gigantic. The root will develop from top on the branch, and then we come down to anchor the soil so as to support the mother tree. So in the Vallée de Mai, it is not only home for the palm trees, and as explained before, it is also home for a lot of associated fauna and flora, and particularly the Seychelles black parrot. This is the main place where you could see them during the breeding season, even non-breeding season, because the forest provides the right habitat for them to reproduce and also to feed. Interestingly, to reproduce, they simply lay in dead trunks of palm. For instance, this one has been an active nest for several breeding season now, and basically the parrot will simply fly on top, and then because this is a dead trunk that it is hollow inside, they will simply climb inside and care for the eggs, and we pledged for the Seychelles black parrots. So that's the perfect nest. So this is a baby. See underneath of the leaf. So this one is a baby Cocodemour snails. You could compare the size of the adult that we've seen before and this one. So it's very tiny. So right next to it is the adult. So you could compare the size from that of it is adult. You could clearly see the spiral rounding, and then when it is still young, you could see more or less like small cones, but flatter than the African giant snail.
Well, Mark, as we continue exploring, do you want to take some questions while we continue exploring?
Yes, please do so. Feel free.
All right, excellent. So while you're looking around, and feel free to stop me anytime that you spot something, I think we should start talking to some of our classrooms and take some questions. So I'm going to go to Mrs. Reynolds' class first in Toronto, Ontario. Let's bring her into the call.
Do we have any questions, boys and girls?
Mrs. Reynolds, any questions from your class?
Yes, just a moment. Unmute, Leah.
What's the biggest type of one of those?
One of what, Leah?
I mean, what's the how old could they get?
The snail?
Most.
Is it the snail, Leah?
Yeah, how old could they get?
So
if they were in captivity.
If they were in captivity.
So Mark, how old can the snails get?
For the captivity one, unfortunately, we wouldn't know. And even in the wild, and unfortunately, this is one of the species that we have not really actually follow because this will entail some marking Snails you know like follow for so many years or so, but it's a very interesting question that we could that gives us an idea that we could eventually start to do the monitoring and then try and identify how old they can live, but they do reproduce quite a lot of eggs, so to ensure that the population doesn't go extinct. But in terms of the age, unfortunately, this is one area that we have not really sit down to follow that.
All
But
right.
this is a very good question. We will take that into consideration now. Any other questions?
Yeah, let me bring up another question here. So this time I'm going to go, let's see, who have we visited? Lots to visit. Let's go to California. Mrs. Barha's grade 6s are hanging out with us. I'm going to bring them into the call. Uh-oh, I don't see them anymore. Maybe we lost them. Okay, let's change gears. Let's go to Miss Michael's class hanging out with us. Let's bring them into the call. Hey, Miss Michael, how are we doing?
Hi. I have Jaya. Jaya, can you come on and ask your question?
So, are there any creatures at night that can cause trouble?
All right. So, Mark, I don't know if you heard that. They're wondering, are there any creatures that come out at night that cause trouble?
No, no. Fortunately, we do not have any creatures that will harm or cause trouble. Interestingly, hoping to have to see quite, so that's why we haven't seen them in abundance, and the night here in the park is quite young, so it will take time for them to come. But to answer your question, not at all. We do not have animals that cause trouble. I mean, when I say animal, it will be the endemic ones. However, we do have other domestic animals, for instance, feral cats, dogs, and introduce invasive species such as the rat, yellow crazy ant, which cause us a lot of trouble. But with the endemic, because this is their homeland and they have been here for the entire time since the biodiversity exists here, so the endemic do not cause trouble at all. But we do face trouble with some domestic introduced invasive species, as mentioned.
Okay. A lot of classrooms on YouTube have asked this question about the spiders. They're wondering, are the spiders venomous?
No, none of the Seychelles spiders are venomous. In fact, we have seen the tiny one, but fascinatingly, the other palm spider is much more bigger, and the female is very big, black, and the male is tiny. So none of our spiders are venomous.
All right. Well, while you're continuing to walk, I'm going to introduce another classroom here. Mrs. Hiller's class, grade 4 5s are joining us. I am going to pop them in. There we go. Them in. Oh, I see you pointing. Hold on.
Hi there.
Oh, I see you pointing. Hold on.
Okay. So I just spoke. Okay. So I just spoke the tiny one. Okay. The tiny one. Okay.
That looks like a bigger spider. That looks like a bigger spider.
Yeah, that's a palm spider. Yeah, that's a palm spider.
All right, Mrs. Hiller, go ahead with your question. All right, Mrs. Hiller, go ahead with your question.
All right. So Taya has a question about what do you have a rainy season? Oops, just a sec. Taya, do you want to ask your question about one of your questions?
I was wondering if one of the snails is there any snails that or animals that are poisonous or can hurt people?
No, as said, there's none of the animal that can that are dangerous. They would not hurt at all. All right, they are non-venomous, and if they, for instance, if you approach them like any other, they would try and find an escape route to avoid you. So because they are wildlife, they are wild, but they are non-venomous at all. I don't know if I well understood you. You mentioned snakes. Yeah, we do have snakes, but they are non-venomous, and they will run away from you if you do approach them. And they are endemic to the Seychelles.
Yeah, so Mark, it sounded like one of their questions as well was about the rainy season. Do you have a rainy season?
Yeah, we do have a rainy season. Actually, so we have the northwest monsoon from end of October up to April, right? So this is the season where we'll be having a lot of rain. So right now we are approaching towards the end of the rain. So just last month Tuesday we had quite a lot of rainfall. So towards the end of the season, we call it the wet season. That's our rain season. And sometimes it's quite relatively average, but sometimes you can have over 200 millimeters when it's really pouring just over 24 hours or over a few hours. So this give you an idea how pouring it can be at times during the rainy season. On the contrary, during the dry season, this is different. Okay, we have much less rain and it's much more dry.
All right. Wow, 200 millimeters of rain in a short period of time. That's a lot of rain. I'm going to bring in Mr. Butch's class. How are we doing today?
Good. My students are wondering how many species of snail do you have there in the Seychelles?
So we have if I would allowed me to use this scientific name, we have the Silodenta. That's a Cocodemour snails, and there is another one similar to that on Mahé. So most of the snails are island specific because we are there is a lot of we are an archipelago, and for the Vallée de Mai we have the Cocodemour snail and the introduced one, and there's a lot of there is the interesting one, the Praslin one as well. There is one count. We have 2 endemic species, and in general, there are more than 2, 3, 4 species. But most of them are, as I said, they are island specific. 2 on Praslin, 1 on Silhouette Mahé, and the introduced one as well. And there is, other than the Praslin one, there is another one also, which is called the black one, very small one. Again, it's endemic. So yeah, just a quick count now. I got around 4 endemics, and 1 common one introduced. But I don't have the details for the tiniest one that has been introduced as well.
All right, good stuff, Mark. I'm going to bring in a grade 3 class now so we can see them. They're sharing their screen there. We can see them all at home in their different screens, and I'll bring their teacher in now. Mrs. Kaur, if you're there, if you want to ask a question, we'd love to take one.
Thank you so much. So I'll ask one of my students. Kavya, do you want to go ahead and ask a question? Yeah, Kavya, go ahead. Okay. So the question is that where did you find those big seeds?
Where do we find them?
Yes.
The Cocodemed.
Yeah, where do you find the big Cocodemour seeds, the big nuts?
Yeah, I found on the camera just to show you. Do you see on the female tree? Actually, we could see in the camera 3 big fruit.
Yeah.
And these are the big Cocodemed nuts. So I hope you see it now from
Mark,
from
how
the
long do
camera.
they take? How long does it take before they're ready to fall to the ground? How long do they develop or
Well,
grow?
it's a very slow process. Actually, it will take up to 7 years on that tree before it falls down. On average, 6-7 years average. Eh?
Well,
So it is a very, very, very slow growing plant. Just after germination, it will take around 9 months just to become the full size, the right size of the nut. And then, as I said, another 6 years for the nut to develop, green, mature, ripe, and fall on the forest floor for germination.
All right. I'm going to bring Mr. Atkinson's crew in with us. Looks like grades 7 and 8's joining us. How are we doing, Mr. Atkinson?
We're doing great. Thank you for the tour so far, Mark. I have a question from my student, Victoria. Go ahead, Victoria.
What makes the Cocodemour palm of Seychelles so unique? It is rumored to have healing powers. Is that true?
Come again with the last part of your question, please.
Healing power. It is rumored to have healing powers. Is that true?
I personally have not have any but to answer part of the world, the Asian countries, they do believe that the kernel of the Cocodemed, yes, it they make pharmaceutical product out of it, and according to them, this is a belief that this, as you said, give them the healing power, and as a result of that, to some extent, Cocodemed forest here in the Seychelles is under huge pressure because at times there's a lot of demands for the kernel for it to be processed into pharmaceutical product.
All right. And then we've got a family group joining us here. I want to bring them in and give them a chance for a question. There we go. We've got them up on screen. Where are they from today? Minden. All right. We're ready for you. You just have to hit the unmute for us.
I was wondering, how big are the jackfruit?
Quite significant in terms of size. I would say it definitely is bigger than the Cocodemed that we've seen, but not heavier though. Although it is big, but it is not heavier. As said before, it has been introduced, and for the jackfruit here, there are several varieties of jackfruit, but the bigger one would definitely be quite big, compared to the other varieties that are much more smaller. For instance, the one that we've seen, very big in size. Any more questions?
Yeah. I'm going to grab a couple from YouTube in just a moment, Mark. But what I'm going to do is share my screen really quickly because Maria sent me a couple pictures. We're not getting lucky with the lizards tonight, but she sent me a couple pictures. I want to bring the Seychelles Chameleon up, and maybe you can tell us a little bit about the chameleon.
So the Seychelles Chameleon, we were hoping to spot them this evening, but unfortunately, they have not come down. So For the Seychelles Chameleon, as explained before, the one that we've spot on the board and the one that you shared on the screen, they is endemic to the Seychelles. In fact, there are two endemic chameleons of the Seychelles. One is called the Seychelles Chameleon that we spot, and another one is called a tiger chameleon. And for the Seychelles Chameleon, fascinatingly, it is found only on the island of Praslin. And for the breeding season will be mainly coincide with the rainy season, which is wet, and there are food availability and also good habitat for them. They are quite sensitive to deviant. If you allowed me to talk on the sister taxa, which is the tiger chameleon, this one is more used to disturbed area, and you can see them not only on palm trees but also in broadleaf species. And the difference would be the tiger chameleon will be having a lot of spot on its body, black spot, and the color will be yellowish, brownish, whereas the Seychelles chameleon that you've mentioned, this one is more or less greenish yellowish with a white crest from the head down to the tail, and quite a prominent chin barb, which is very distinct compared to the tiger chameleon.
I want to bring up the tree frog as well, Mark, because frogs are always really cool. So can you tell us a little bit about the tree frog?
The tree frog, they are quite interesting and quite in abundance here. So compared to the chameleon, the tree frog, they adapt to even disturbed environment. They could see as lowland and intermediate forest, and also in high and mist forest. The female is bigger than the male, and they have quite a very distinct vocal call. After the rainfall, you will see, you will hear a lot of them by water sources, whereby they inflate their vocal sac. Is basically like a big bladder underneath their throat, and they use that to sort of echo their calls, either for breeding calls or just to call others. But it's very ambience in the forest after the rain.
All right, Mark, I want to wrap up with 2 questions for you from the chat, and they're great questions. The first one, Mrs. Walsh's class in Illinois would like to know what the newest animal discovered in the Vallée de Mai is. And then
Yes.
Ms. Fogel's class wants to know your favorite species in the Seychelles.
So if I take the last question, my favorite species will be the chameleon, because this is one that I followed quite closely, and I'm quite fascinating with them because they have the ability, for instance, to throw out their tongue within the blink of second, catch their prey, and then feed. And they have the ability also to roll the eyes 360 degrees. So there's a lot of hidden talent, I would say, with the chameleon, that we as human beings, we really need to sit down and really understand how do they function. For instance, how can a tongue of an animal be as twice as the length of the body, or it can throw out within second and retract back with the prey, and also for the eyes. And also when it comes to predator for the chameleon, it's very fascinating, because what they do when they come to perch, or we perch with the edge of the leaf front. So any movement that a predator, let's say a snake, will come on the leaf, so they will let go their body. You will think that the animal will be hurt. Now they will fall down on the dry leaf and then take cover underneath the leaf, right? And there are some in Madagascar, some of them also live underneath the. Can you please remind me the second question? The first question, sorry.
Yeah, they were wondering what was the newest species discovered?
Okay. Thank you. The newest species discovered in the Vallée de Mai is the Succulent Frogs that I've shown you at the beginning of the guided tours. And basically, this one was discovered as a new species in 2009.
All right. I'm going to pop that picture up on the screen really quickly so the students can see that. There we go. That's the newest species.
Mm-hmm. And interestingly, in the granitic island of Seychelles, there are 3 of these Succulent frogs. And for the one that was discovered inside Valle de Mai is similar to the one that is found on Mahe and Sidwell, but we're trying to work on the genetic. And they do live under moist, damp leaf litters in the forest floor. That's why it's very important for us here to protect the forest floor. And we do not interfere with cleaning, removing dry leaves or fallen branches or leaves, because when it rains, these materials become damp and moist, and this is the perfect habitat for them. And they have a very distinct calls, and they are very tiny. Basically, if you put on your fingernail, it will fit on your fingernail, but there will be other spaces. I wish I could have been able to spot one and to show you, but unfortunately, because it is very cryptic animal, very difficult to spot, and they are quite very sensitive also. That's why we try, but they are very fascinating. The sound that they make when they call, it's you won't believe such a tiny animal can make such a loud call.
All right, Mark. Well, I want to start off by giving a big shout out to the YouTube crew today. Thank you for sending in so many great questions via the chat bar. I want to shout out to our camera classrooms. Always great to have those great questions. And then Mark, to you and the team. I know Maria's there behind the camera and others. Thank you so much for taking us into the nighttime world of the Seychelles today, of the Vallée de Mai.
Yeah, it was a pleasure also for us to introduce you to the nightlife of Vallée de Mai, and also to pass on our knowledge to all the viewers and listeners around the world. And for us, it's a great privilege also to be able to share what's the secrets of our UNESCO World Heritage Site. And we do hope that you have enjoyed it.
It's an absolutely beautiful location. It was amazing to see all the different palm trees and their different strategies for surviving. And it was cool to see the crickets and the snails and the spiders were out tonight. The Cocodemour, the largest seed in the world. That's pretty amazing. 7 years to develop. Pretty incredible. And the sneaky lizards. We're going to have to come back and do the night tour with classrooms again in the future. It was a ton of fun tonight, Mark. And a huge shout out to the whole team.
Thank you very much, Joe, and we look forward to this continued collaboration so that we can eventually bring the biodiversity, the outstanding biodiversity that we have here, to even more wider audience. Thank you for this opportunity.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. We're going to sign off for today. I hope everybody has an incredible weekend, and we're looking forward to our next trip to the Seychelles. So have a great weekend, everybody. Signing off.